So again, if you're using a strap, set it near toward the top of your mat, somewhere you can reach it. And we're going to begin this class in a child's pose. So knees a little bit wider, toes to touch, shift your hips back. I'm going to start with a little bit of a gentle child's pose first. So arms outstretched, forehead dropping down to the mat. You might notice that your hips are a little higher than usual. Perhaps you are already feeling fairly warm and awake, and this is typical. Soften through your jaw. Move into your deeper, fuller, more mindful breath. And feeling expansion through your rib cage, noticing if it feels different in this orientation. A lot of times when we're beginning classes, we are seated, we're upright, or we are reclined with our chest facing up. So just notice in the ways that this feels different, maybe the way that your clothes shift differently. Does it take you to a different space? And I invite you to drift your thoughts to the dedication that you'd like to set for yourself. A lot of times in this class, we explore the elements of play, of lila, of this divine practicing for the sake of practicing, not so attached to outcome, just the enjoyment and the exploration. And if that is something that makes sense to you, then send your thoughts to that place. Do what is speaking to you at this moment. Let's take a very deep breath in together. Hold at the very top for just a moment. And then let it go, release fully. Reach your arms out in front of you, far, 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 moving to like an active child's pose. Pull your hips back. Roll your inner elbows up. Come up onto your finger pads. Maybe even lift your chin up and just send your gaze outward. See if you can really wrap, like your shoulder blades could drip down the sides of your body toward the mat, and then start to drift your forehead down while maintaining that length in your arms. Hips still pulling back, shoulders wrapping down and around. You might even feel your belly start to become a little bit more tense. Inhale, lift up halfway again. You're going to roll over to the right just a bit, taking a child's pose to the side, left fingertips pulling out far, claw at the ground. Inhale, lift up, wander it to the center, and take it over to the opposite side. Reaching your hands out long. Come back to your child's pose, arms out in front of you. Forehead down to the mat, and then bend at your elbows, bringing your palms together, and you might need to reach out one elbow a little bit further and then the other, and then start to bring your hands in this prayer back towards your neck, seeing if you can still maintain palms pressing toward each other, and then press your elbows into the mat as well. Continue to reach your hips down towards your heels. You might feel a quad stretch. Then release your hands down, lift up onto your hands and knees so that you're in a tabletop position. Realign your knees in line with your hips. Inhale, drop your belly, lift up your hips and heart. You're coming to a cow pose. Exhale, press up into cat. Fingertips spread wide, bring your chin to your chest even. Inhale, swim it forward to your cow. Exhale, press into cat. Come back to neutral, tuck your toes, hover your knees away from the mat. Inhale, come into cow pose. Exhale, keeping your knees lifted, come into cat pose. Really pull your hip tips towards your ribs. Keeping knees hovering. Inhale, take it forward to cow. Keep the hover. Exhale, come to cat. And then once more. All right, drop your knees down to the mat. And take an Anahatasana, hands out towards the corners of your mat. Melting heart pose. Little inner elbows lift up, start to drop your chest down. Deep breaths. And then on exhale, start to press your way back up to your hands and your knees. Tuck your toes, send your hips back. So it's kind of like a modified child's pose. Really find as much length as you can. And then on an exhale, start to unfold, lift up your hips, coming to downward facing dog. So really find all the length you can. Lots of stretch through the backs of your legs. Inner thighs reach back. Deep breaths here. On an inhale, lift your right leg toward the ceiling. Bend your knee, open up through your hips. Keep your left heel hidden behind your left toes. Re-straighten the leg to tripod dog. Exhale, take your knee to your right tricep to shift it forward. Inner elbows are still pointing forward, giving yourself lots of support. Inhale, up and back, tripod, bend knee, open up hips. Again, exhale, take your knee to the right tricep, take it forward. One more time like that. Inhale, lift up, bend the knee, open up. Final time, exhale, take your knee to the right side. And then step your right foot back so you're in a high plank pose. Stay here for several breaths, building lots of heat and strength, waking up your body. And then when you're ready on an exhale, lift up and back to downward facing dog. Adjust if you need. Next, inhale, left leg up and back, bend knee, open up to your hips. Again, make sure your right heel is hidden back. On an exhale, take your knee to your left tricep, shift forward. Inhale, up and back, bend knee, open up. Exhale, knee to left tricep. Inhale, up and back, open up. Third time, take your knee to the left side. And then step your left foot back so that you're in your plank pose. Come down to your forearms, forearm plank. Maybe forearms are parallel to each other. Press away from the mat, low belly in. Press back through your heels. And then when you're ready on an exhale, you're just gonna lower all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes, reach your arms behind you, interlace your fingers. And then also just to give yourself lots of space. First, rock over to the left side, extend your right leg out long, lifting it up, creating more space, rock to the right, extend the left leg out. Okay, and then shrug your shoulders up and back. Fingertips are clasped. Reach your arms back, coming to a locust pose. Point your toes, maybe bring your legs together, bring your ankles toward each other. Neck long, lift up. Long, slow breaths. And then on an exhale, release your palms. Take one cheek down to the mat. Let your heels drop out to the side. 3 breaths to rest. And at the end of your third exhale, take your chin back to center. Interlace your fingertips the opposite way. Again, if you need to find more extension through your legs, give yourself all the space you need. Shrug your shoulders up and back, clasping your hands together. Reach back, point back, lift up your toes, lift up your thighs, lift up your chest. And breathe. If you rock a little bit back and forth, completely fine. Continue to point through your toes really, really strongly. And reach your hands, your knuckles back for your toes. And then on an exhale, release down, opposite cheek to the mat. Heels drop out to the sides, soften your forehead, soften everything. 3 more breaths. All right, take your chin back to center. Bring your hands in closer to your chest, setting up like for chaturanga. Tuck your toes. Shrug your shoulders up and back, fingertips wide, low belly in, forehead down. Lift up your hips, lift up your shoulders, lift up your head. Here in chaturanga, press up and back. Downward facing dog. Deep inhale, deep exhale. Next, inhale, right leg comes up and back, long, straight, strong. Lift up onto your left toes. On an exhale, pull your knee to your chest and then place your foot between your hands towards your right thumb. Drop your left knee down, untuck your toes. Inhale, arms come up. Make sure you've got more of a 90-degree angle in your front knee first. Shrug your shoulders back, pinkies facing toward each other. And then on an exhale, start to release your hips down. Squeeze your right heel toward your left knee and press to the tops of your left toes. Breathe. Maybe sink a little bit lower. So still focus on squaring to the front, but really think about what it feels like through the left quadricep and hip flexor here. Take your right hand to your right hip crease and arc over to the right. Again, making sure that you're gently pulling back on your right hip so you've got squared. And then on an exhale, take both hands down to the mat. Take your left hand out a little bit wider. Pull your left foot towards you. Reach your right arm up and back. Cycle around so your thumb is up and grasp the outside of the left foot. Shift your hips back, connect heel to bum, and then rebend for a quad stretch. And if you've got this connection and you're feeling good about this, you want to be able to take it a little bit further. You can come onto your left forearm, or if you've got a block nearby, you can use a little bit of a prop. Just make sure that you've got your shoulder over your elbow if you come all the way down. All right, release your foot if you've taken it. Come back up onto your hands and knees. Tuck the back toe. Low lunge. In one movement, strike your right foot up to a tripod dog. And now place the foot next to the other, downward facing dog. 3 breaths. Very active downward facing dog. Press the mat away from you. Engage your core. And then when you're ready, inhale, left leg comes up and back, up on your right toes. And then on an exhale, place your foot between your hands towards your left thumb. Drop the right knee down, untuck your toes. As you're ready, come up. A little bit more of a 90-degree angle so you can square your hips, engage your core here. Find that strength, and then start to descend your hips down. Again, left hip is gently pulling your left heel towards your right knee. Lots of space between shoulders and ears, pressing down through all 5 fingernails of your right foot. They're not fingernails, they're toenails. Again, be really mindful here. Breathe into the right leg, and take your left hand, your left hip crease, arc over to the left. On an exhale, both hands come down to the mat and square out. Take your right hand out a little bit further, and then you're going to pull your right heel towards your bum, cycle your left arm up and around to make sure that your palm is facing the foot with your thumb up. Make the adjustment you need, shift it back, and then rebend into the front knee. And then start to make some decisions for yourself, whether staying here is absolutely appropriate, or if you'd like to come down just a little bit further. Allow yourself some long, slow breaths. And then if you took the clasp all the way, release it, come up onto your hands. Tuck your toes behind you so that you're in a low lunge. And then in one movement, you're going to step all the way back to a tripod dog with the left leg extended. And then place your left foot next to the other. Downward facing dog, 3 breaths. Inhale, bend your knees. You're going to look beyond your hands and you're going to just hop to a seat in the center of your mat and then roll onto your back. We're going to take a bridge pose here. So kind of early on in the class, but as we're starting to warm up the front side of our body, this is where we're going. So shrug your shoulders underneath you. You've got a firm foundation, heels in line with your hips, and then your feet a little bit close into you so you can touch the backs of your heels just barely. Press through your feet, wave your spine up. And you can stay right here with your arms alongside you, or take it a little bit deeper. Wrap one shoulder underneath you, and then the other. Interlace your fingers, press down through your pinkies, press down through your feet. Reach your tailbone towards the backs of your knees. This means a little bit of engagement in your bum. Simply breathe. And then as you're ready, unclasp, start to come down. Slowly wave your spine down, lift up your heels as you come all the way. Take your feet a little bit wider and then knock your knees toward each other. One hand on heart, one hand on belly, 3 breaths. And then after your third exhale, realign yourself for round 2. Walking your feet in closer to you. As you're ready, press through your feet, wave your spine upward, and then interlace your fingers the opposite way, shrugging shoulders underneath you if you took that variation. Reach out to the tops of your thighs. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Can you create even more space between your spine and the floor? Really press through your forearms and your pinkies. And then as you're ready, unravel. Lift your heels away from the mat and start to wave all the way back down. Take your feet a little bit wider than your hips so your feet are away from each other. Then knock both knees over to the right. Lift your knees up to center, dropping both over to left. And then come up, pull your knees into your chest. So first take wind relieving pose. Arms around your shins. You can pull in a little bit tighter here if you'd like. Start to notice through your hip flexors what this is feeling like. And then take your hands to the backs of your thighs, rock up and down the length of your spine. You're gonna land on your hips so we can come into a Navasana pose, oak pose. Awesome. Arms out in front of you, you can stay here, or if you wanna move with me, we're going to be moving into Ardha Navasana. So inhale, extend legs, lean back, keep your heels and your shoulders hovered. On an exhale, pull your knees into your chest, try to keep your heels in line with your knees. Inhale, come out. Exhale, draw in. One more time, inhale, come out. Exhale, draw in, and then roll over your hands and knees. Make your way back to downward facing dog. If you want to take a vinyasa, you can do that. Take a moment to just feel through your body. What are you experiencing? Are there any thought patterns that are starting to come through? Examine the quality of those. Is this something that serves you and your purpose? And then when you're ready, on an inhale, lift your right leg up toward the ceiling. On an exhale, place your foot between your hands toward right thumb. Step your left foot in ever so slightly. Press down through your feet. Lift up to warrior one. Right hip pulls back. Left is forward. Press to the outer edge of your left foot. Draw your belly in and maybe descend your right thigh even lower. And then you're going to wrap your left elbow underneath, wrapping once or twice for Garudasana arms. You could always take hands to your shoulders. Keep your hips low and square to the front. Send your gaze upward, lift up your fingertips, and then on an exhale, we're going to curl forward for a humble warrior. However, we've got Garudasana arms. Keep your right foot really stable, knee over ankle, look back. Keeping that bend in your knee, lift all the way up with the crossed arms, and then unravel back to your warrior one. Straighten the front leg. Make sure your right hip is pulled back, and we're going to come down to a pyramid pose. So right hip tacks back as you hinge forward on an exhale. Keep your arms more alongside your ears for as long as you can, and then drop your hands down to the mat. If you find that you need to step your left foot in a little bit closer, you can do that. Just take a little bend to your right knee first as you pop forward. Maintain that 45-degree angle. Reach your heart forward, inhale. And then on an exhale, start to reach your chin down towards your shin, shoulders away from you. Again, if you want blocks here, perfectly fine. Gives you just a little bit more lift, brings the ground closer to you. Breathe. Inhale, lift up halfway, pivot onto the ball of your back foot, wiggle the back, bend into the right knee, step your right foot back, and then press up and back to downward facing dog. 2 breaths. Next, inhale, left leg up and back. On an exhale, place your foot between your hands towards your left thumb. We're going to set up for warrior one. Step the right foot in, ankle down. Maintain the deep bend in your left knee, and then rise up. Make the adjustments that you need. Left hip gently pulls back. Low belly in, knit your ribs in. Go a little bit lower. Continue to press to the outer edge of your right foot. Warrior one is something. And then we're going to take Garudasana arms, right elbow on the bottom, hands to shoulders, wrapping once or twice. Inhale, look up, maintain the deep bend. Exhale, curl down. Garudasana arms in a humble warrior. You might find that your left knee is to the outside of your left shoulder. That's perfectly fine. Just make sure your left hip is continuing to draw back. Keep the binding of your hands that you have selected. Press down, lift up, stacking shoulders over hips. Then unravel all the way to your warrior one. Straighten the left leg, more square your hips. And then we're going to start to come forward slowly, slowly, slowly to our pyramid pose. Left leg is straighter, arms alongside ears. And then when you're ready, just send your hands down to the mat. Check out your legs. Do you need a little bit more assistance here? A little bend into your left knee. Step the right foot forward so you can pull your left hip back even more. Find length. Inhale. Exhale, deepen, chin towards shin. And breathe. Use your core strength to assist you here. Lift up on your left kneecap. Inhale, lift up halfway. Pivot onto the ball of your back foot. Step the foot back, bend into your left knee. Step your left foot back to meet your right. Press up and back to downward facing dog. 2 breaths. Inhale, right leg up and back. Exhale, place the foot between your hands. Step the left foot in slightly. Warrior 1 as you are ready. Straighten the front leg. Move into pyramid pose. Once again, hinge forward, just in your arms. When you're ready, inhale, lengthen. Exhale, deepen, 3 breaths. At the end of your third exhale, lift up halfway. Pivot onto the ball of your back foot, bend into your right knee. We're going to move forward to an Ardha Chandrasana half moon. So right hand comes out on the bias of your right pinky. So when you shift forward, your wrist is below your right shoulder, left leg lifts. Start to open up your hips slightly, not quite stacking. And then when you're ready, lift up your left hand. If you'd like, we can go ahead and start working into one of these binds. So bend your left knee, reach back for the foot, press foot into hand, hand into foot. Continue to press down with your foundation. Just breathe. And then when you're ready, release the foot. Square your hand down. A little bend to your right knee can help through your hips with this. Step your left foot all the way back so that you are in a low lunge. Strike your right foot all the way up, tripod dog. And then place your foot next to the other, down dog. 2 breaths. At the end of your second exhale, left leg comes up and back. Exhale, place the foot between your hands. Make your way into warrior 1. Lift up. Keeping their hips squared, we move into pyramid pose. Straighten the left leg, lift up, hinge forward. Maybe pausing for a moment before your hands come all the way down. Lengthen, inhale, deepen, exhale, 3 breaths. After your third exhale, lift up halfway. Pivot onto the ball of the back foot, bend into your left knee, set yourself up for your half moon pose, eventually Ardha Chandrasana Shavasana. Shift the weight forward, right leg lifts. When you're ready, right hand to the right hip or extend up toward the ceiling. Find your foundation first. And then let's shake it up. Bend the top leg, reach your right hand back for your foot. Press foot to hand, hand to foot. You might need to bend through your left knee for more stability. Perfectly fine. Just breathe. Continue to find that resistance between hand and foot, foot and hand. Okay, release the bind if you've got it. Take a little bend to your left knee so you can take your right hand down, square off your hips once again. Step your left foot all the way back, low lunge, and then strike your left leg all the way up to a tripod dog. Release the foot next to the other, downward facing dog. Take your knees to your mat. And then come to sit on, or stand on your knees, that is. We're going to take a Virasana posture and then follow it up with a Supta Virasana if that suits you. It depends on how your body's feeling. So this is hero pose. So you start standing on your knees. And then normally we're like half heels in line with your knees, in line with your hips. Things change a bit here. You're going to set your heels out to the side. So the idea is that you sit back and you've got room for your bum to go. So start to hinge forward a little bit and then use your hands to mash through your calves, soften them up, tenderize yourself. And then you're going to start to make moves so that your hips can go onto the mat between your heels. If this provides you with any kind of discomfort in your knees, then place something underneath your hips, whether it is a block, a bolster, rolled up towel, things of the like. So notice your level of familiarity here. And then if you'd like to take it further, take your hands behind you, start to walk yourself back. If this is not doing good things for you, then stop where you are. And you might find that halfway down, you're like, this is where I am. If you get to this point where you're about ready to come onto your forearms, press to the tops of your feet, lift up your hips, slide your hips underneath you just a bit. So you're doing a different alignment with your pelvis. You'll feel a more intense stretch to your quadriceps. Then perhaps you come down onto your forearms or all the way down onto your back. If you'd like, you can bring your arms overhead, maybe bring your hands to touch your elbows. Continue to draw your hip tips towards your ribs. This will engage your core, and you'll start to kind of flatten out the space between your back and the mat. Breathe wherever you are. Focus on your exhales. If you've come all the way down to your Supta Virasana, unravel your hands, take your hands to your feet, and then we're going to carefully come out of this pose in the same way that we came in, pressing up on forearms, coming into hands, lifting up. And then we're all in Virasana. Come over onto your hands and knees, tabletop position, realign your heels back in line with your knees, maybe move your ankles around, shift your hips. All right, tuck your toes, send your hips back to your heels, come up and back to your downward facing dog. And then on an inhale, rise to your toes, come to the top of a plank pose. On an exhale, lower through chaturanga to or toward your mat. Untuck your toes for an upward facing dog or cobra pose if you choose. And then on an exhale, make it up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg comes up and back. Take your knee towards your right wrist. We're going to come into a pigeon pose. So start to pivot your ankle across your body. Drop your left knee, walk the left leg back. Look back over your left shoulder. Make sure that your heel isn't sliding off to the side. Take your hands alongside your body. Scissor your thighs together so you've got a little bit of lift. Find this back bend. Inhale, arms lift up. And then on an exhale, you're going to come all the way forward. Recline down. Press to the top of your left toenails. And breathe. And then as you're ready, keep your lower body as this, start to press your way up. We're going to start to play with the bind now. So if you wanted to use a strap, bring it a little bit closer to you. You're going to bend your left knee, reach your left heel up. Cycle your left arm up and back, similar to what we've been doing before, so that your thumb is pointed up, your palm of your hand is facing toward your foot, and then start to bring your foot in closer to you. So here's where you might want to create that lasso in your strap and hook it around your foot. Or you're going to start to bring your foot in closer, bringing your toes into the crook of your elbow. See if you can still square your shoulders toward the front of your mat. Right here, if you'd like to not use a strap, or use a strap really, it's going to be the same either way. You're going to reach your right arm up. You're going to pivot at your elbow, point your left fingertips up. Take your right hand behind your head to grasp your fingertips. Continue to point your right elbow up toward the ceiling. Continue to wrap your left side of your rib cage toward the front of your mat. And breathe. Notice if you're rocking your weight all the way to the left hip, see if you can keep it centered. And then let's start to unwind. Take your right hand down. Take the strap away from your left foot or drop your foot down. Rock over onto your right hip so you can bring your left leg around in front of you. We'll take a Jani Shirsasana. Your right knee is still bent. Place your foot into your left thigh. Adjust. Inhale, lift up, pivot over the left leg, and on an exhale, reach for your foot. We'll be here for 3 breaths. Lift up on an inhale, and then break pose on an exhale. Roll over onto your hands and knees. Take a tabletop position. Take the next 5 breaths to whatever you need to do before we meet back in downward facing dog. Perhaps cat and cow works for you, or maybe you would like to take a vinyasa. Begin now. And then begin to make your way back to downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg up and back. We take pigeon to the left side. As you're ready, take your knee towards your left wrist. And then like you did on the side before, walk the right leg back. Look over your right shoulder. Make sure that you've got a straight line here. Your body isn't trying to trick you. Come back to center. Find that buoyancy, that strength. And then we're going to come forward. You can always take a block or fist to support your head. Make your way into the reclined pigeon. And then as you're ready, you're going to start to press your way up as we move toward mermaid pose. So much fun with peak pose. So right heel comes up. Like we did earlier, just take your weight over to the left just a bit. Give yourself space. Cycle your right arm up and back. This is really similar shapes. Thumb up, palm away. And then start to draw your heel in closer towards you, maybe taking crook of neck, a crooked elbow, that is. Or if you want, try it with a strap. So lassoing your foot or just taking the loose ends of your strap around. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to navigate though. You're going to point your right hand up or your elbow if you're taking the strap variation. Left hand comes back, little dog intervention. Bend at your elbow and bring your hands toward the strap or fingertips to touch. Start to bring your right shoulder forward. Wrapping your right rib cage to the front. Sit your thighs together. Give yourself the support you need. Again, notice if you're rocking more to the right. Start to square out. Just breathe. If you need to come out of the pose to re-enter it, then please do. And then as you're ready, start to release the strap or your bind. Allow your right leg to come down, shift over onto your left hip, and then take your right leg towards the front, Janu Sirsasana, left foot into right thigh. Inhale, expand up. Exhale, hinge forward. And then if you need another one, lift out. Exhale, come forward again, 3 breaths. At the end of your third exhale, lift up. Unbind yourself from whatever bind you've taken. Roll over onto your hands and knees. You've got the next 3 breaths. Do with whatever you'd like before we meet in a downward facing dog. First of 3 breaths begins now. At the end of your third exhale, you should be making your way to your downward facing dog. If you're not there already, deep breath in. Full exhale. Lift your toes, roll to the top of a plank pose. And then either knees down or knees up. Lower all the way down onto your mat. Flip onto your back. Gently draw your knees in towards your chest, rock a little from side to side. Maybe even take a happy baby here. Extend your feet up to the ceiling, arms alongside your body. Your knees do not have to be straight. Your legs don't have to be straight. Your knees can have a bend to them. Flex your toes towards your face. Find lots of length here. So you're pressing down through your hips as you're pointing up through your heels, even if knees are bent. Maybe a little bit of shaking here as you press your hips down. Try to flatten out your low back a bit, meaning that you're engaging your core here. And then when you're ready, on an exhale, bend your knees, extend your legs out in front of you. You'll take Shavasana posture. Corpse pose, make the adjustments that you need so that you can begin to remove physical sensations as best you can. Not falling asleep, simply being aware. Slowly begin to deepen your breath. A long, slow exhale. Invite movement and life back into your body. Maybe taking a good morning stretch, reaching your legs out in front of your arms up above your head. Perhaps explore pointing and flexing your feet. And when you're ready, roll over onto your right side, pausing for several moments. And when you're ready, make your way to a seated posture for a very brief reflection meditation. On an inhale, bring your arms out and up, send your chin upward. And on an exhale, take your thumbs to the space between your eyebrows for clarity of thought, to your lips for clarity of speech, and then down to your heart for clarity of action. Bow your head to your heart, acknowledging this body that has done so much for you. It's carried you through every single day of your life. Through this moment, offering appreciation and honor. Where we all find elements of play. We find that divine exploration and let that guide us. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me and helping me to deepen my own personal practice. I am eternally grateful for you. In the name of the highest good. Namaste.